So today we're talking about fertilizers, and we're going to be going over just some things that you might want to think about as you're fertilizing or looking to fertilize your lawn. We've got our two experts here from the Marion Soil and Water Conservation District. They are an awesome resource. A lot of people think of the SWCD as people that might help farmers and do agriculture, but really they have a lot of resources that can help even folks that are dealing with small plots, lawn and garden. So be sure to ask them as many questions as you like. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our folks at the SWCD so that they can introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Brandon Bishop with Marion Soil and Water. I'm the Ag Conservation Planner, so predominantly I work with agricultural people and producers, but we do reach out and do some urban work, so I'm here to talk about fertilizer. And this is Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny Ammon, and I am the Natural Resource Educator for Marion SWCD. And I have the pleasure of partnering with people like Haley with the City of Kaiser to help do outreach not only for agricultural folks, but for urban folks as well. And so today we're excited to kind of have a conversation with my buddy Brandon about how we fertilize. I have a lot of questions too, because this is not my realm of reality. This is my husband's knowledge base. And so I'm really excited to learn with you today. And like Haley said, if we have questions that pop up, we're going to try our darndest to get them answered.
Okay, so the topic of fertilizer has several facets, and we could go on for a long time, but we're just going to try to make it short and sweet, just so everybody gets the first base knowledge of what we're doing. First, I want you to think about what you're doing in context. We call it farming in context. What you want out of your lawn. Do you want it to be lush, green, beautiful, healthy? What do you want out of it? Now, some of the drawbacks to having a very lush and green lawn is constant maintenance and mowing, taking care of the clippings, so it's kind of a trade-off, right? So another tool that I would use that's used in agriculture is the 4R stewardship, and you can look that up anywhere. There's plenty of information online, which is the right source, the right rate, the right time, and the right place. There's my 4 R's.
Can you do that again, because I already forgot.
Right source. So that's going to be what type of fertilizer you put on.
Okay.
Right time, when you put it on. Right place, put it on your lawn.
So you're talking spring, maybe?
Yes, this is a perfect time right now.
Okay.
It's May, maybe could have started a little earlier, but we still have plenty of time to get a nice, lush lawn, especially with the cooler weather. You definitely want to be doing it now in May versus trying to catch up in June or July when the hotter temperature and the grass is trying to go dormant. So you want to do it now if you can.
That makes sense.
And then we talked about place, keeping it on your lawn, because as where I live in town, and we need to be careful to not spread the fertilizer out on the sidewalk. It stains it and it goes into our waterways. We don't want to throw it over in the flower beds and fertilize the weeds that are around the bark test. So it's definitely something you want to work on. I know we've had some questions about clippings, and I'm a big proponent in doing return clippings if you can. I think some of the problems when people fail is if it's too tall and you're trying to just mow through it and you're stalling your mower and you just say, this is stupid, I hate this. Well, that could be, it's management is what it is. If you can, keep it short and then just be trimming a little bit. Imagine, I know we're all dealing with the quarantine and haircuts. If you come in with a full, huge head of hair and you get your head shaved, you have a pile of clippings. If you have short hair, you keep it short, not a big deal. So when you do the return recycling or returning your grass cycling, it's got tons of nicknames, go short and then get out there and do it, and make sure it's dry too, because if you do it when it's wet in the morning, or even the weather actually we have now, you're going to get the clumps, which you're going to not as aesthetically pleasing. So when we talk back to the 4 R's, sources, there's two main sources that you kind of hear about in bag terms. For fertilizers in lawn, it's either a fast acting, or you'll see that say slow release. The slow release have special polymers that coat the fertilizer frills, so it's spoon feeding the lawn throughout a few weeks. Most fertilizers are within 1 to 6 weeks, so the fast acting 1, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The slower, longer lasting. So look at that. That's kind of that farming in context, how you want to manage it. Do you want to fertilize every few weeks? Do you want to pump it? The fast acting tend to be quite a bit cheaper. You'll see urea, ammonium sulfate in bulk. Those are going to be most likely a 4600 or a 3300. Right up there on the wall in Weimar, it's the cheap bag, but it works, but it's kind of like giving your lawn racing fuel. You're going to get a good, and then it kind of peters off because it loses its health. So think about that when you're making your fertilizer purchases. You had questions about organics.
I just found out yesterday that this is embarrassing. Facebook Live. I found out that there's organic and synthetic, and I would love if you could help me just kind of wrap my brain around what are the differences between those two. What does that mean for your lawn?
So organic is going to be the source of where the fertilizer is, what it's made of, and synthetic, it's going to come and go into all how that's made and that. But a synthetic one is going to be those urea salts, urea, ammonium sulfate. Organics tend to be made of bone meal, some sort of animal manure, maybe bloodworm.
So they'll
meal.
break down naturally versus synthetic is it's already ready for the plant to use. Is that
yeah? They both break down plenty fast. Organics, they generally have a lower number, so you're going to put more on. If you look at the analysis, their numbers are usually single-digit numbers versus, like I said, urea is 4600. That's a lot of nitrogen. You can go quickly. So there's that. That's one issue, is it takes a lot more to put on, and then sometimes you got to pick a good quality, and that just takes time and experience. And who has good companies? I don't have a recommendation of any organic one, because sometimes they can be inconsistent for what you're getting. Kind of like, cow manure. It's how much is the cow producing? Is that cow healthy? Is that nutrient deficient? That kind of a thing.
So there's a lot of variation?
Yeah.
Okay.
But a really popular one I have experience with is called Milorganite. It's an organic-based one. Doesn't burn in the summer. So if there's plenty of research out there, look that up, YouTube, other places that guys have videos that they really like using that. It does have an off-putting smell for a while. Disclaimer, it does smell awful, but it works really well and doesn't burn. Because if you use the synthetic fertilizers in June and July, when it's pumping at 80 degrees, 90 degrees, you're going to see that yellowing and think, oh my gosh, I killed the lawn. It'll grow out of it, but it burns it.
Okay. We actually have a question come through. What is best to use if you have a dog?
It's your choice as a homeowner whether you want to use organic or synthetic. In the case of using a synthetic, it's follow the label. You want to keep your dog off of it 24 to 48 hours. Follow that label. You don't want them eating the little prills or kind of getting that on them. So the safest way I feel to apply fertilizer, put on the right rate after you mowed, so you're not sucking it up in the mower and making a mess. Put it on, and then if you have the ability to put irrigation on it, put some irrigation to get it down in the soil and wash away. If you can get it before the right rain, what is the right rain, but enough to wet it down, but not completely stormwater mid-January where it all washes into the street, that's a hard management choice, but keep your dogs off of it if you can, or pets, dogs, cats, birds, just...
I think about that too with pets and kids. When you read the label, it'll tell you that duration to stay off the lawn. I also think if you have the opportunity, if you have a front and backyard, if you're doing the back, you can still use the front to let the dog out and don't treat that at the same time, so you're not left with messes. Because no one likes that.
No. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of a really short how we do a couple of fertilizer spreaders. This one's actually one of my good friends. He let me borrow it, so thank you, Stephen. And then this is mine. So this is a drop spreader. That's mine. These ones can be a little harder to stay on point and apply on harder shaped lawns, or maybe apply light. It kind of goes heavy, I feel. A broadcast spreader like this one is efficient. It just throws it quickly. You can get it done. These new ones that Scott's has, these one has edge guards, so it doesn't throw it out on the sidewalk and into your bushes. So, but if you don't have to buy this one. You can put a chunk of cardboard or something to block whatever type you have. So don't go out and buy something new. You don't need it. You can just block it off. So both have good advantages. I keep one. I wash it each time. An easy way to store them is I actually hang them from the garage ceiling because they're incredibly light. They're just all plastic, pretty much. Then you can keep them out of everybody, out of the kids, out of the way.
Question. I love that you rinse it, but one of the questions that I have, so you said keep it off the sidewalk, so you don't rinse this on your driveway or sidewalk. You rinse it?
I rinse it in the lawn.
Okay, all right.
I've already fertilized. There shouldn't be anything in there. The residual's going to go out on my lawn. I don't soak it. I just so I don't have it all over my hands, and then I wash my hands when I go inside do normal, just normal hygiene on that. So when you have fertilizer, I know probably another big issue is you buy a bag of fertilizer that's 50 pounds, and I have a 4-foot lawn, and what am I going to do with the remainder of my fertilizer? So I like to store it in like a Rubbermaid bin, but clearly mark it. You got to reach the children, try to do what you can. It just needs to be in a dry, cool place. Otherwise, it'll clump up, and then you won't be able to use either spreader with those clumps. You don't want to be breaking them with your hands or tools or whatever. So if you have excess, try to wrap it up and just keep it dry and out of the way. Because you read the labels, it's on the bags, but it's usually per 1,000 square feet, and a 16-pound bag could be a much larger lawn than you need. So try to keep them, because it's your money, and it'll stay good for over a year plus. As long as it's dry, you can just keep using it.
That's a really good point. I didn't realize that either until we didn't put it into a bag and
you got a hard clump.
When I look at the city of Kaiser and the city of Salem, and yard sizes vary, and so you may go through it faster or slower, so that Rubbermaid tote is a great tip.
Yeah, and if you're going to, I recommend going to an agronomy center. If you want to have more questions, reach out to any of them. There's several of them in our district. But if you're going to a Home Depot, Lowe's, hardware store, they're going to sell the smaller bags more in the 15, 16, 5-pound bags versus majority of the agronomy centers are 25 to 50-pound bags for doing a bigger size area. So just be aware of that. It may be cheaper here, but you get a 50-pound bag. I need to know where to store it so I just don't have it wasted in my lawn, and I don't want to just be throwing away 45 pounds in our garbage and where that all goes. So.
I was wondering too, I'm sorry, I don't know if you have another question on there, but one of the things that when we moved from Iowa to Oregon, the soil is much different. And actually in our yard, from the right side of the yard to the left side of the yard, we have different soil types. And I keep hearing master gardeners and even our own native and invasive plant specialists talk about how important, and you talk about it all the time, how important soil testing is. Can you talk about that? Oh yeah.
This is a soil sample bag. I'm not advertising for this lab, but I recommend highly getting your soil tested. It's $25 to give or take $40. Great way to set up your nutrient program. I mean, we do it all the time in ag, obviously, because you want to put on a prescription type base. You want to put what your ground needs. You don't want to just throw it on, or as my favorite thing is the moron theory. It didn't work, I'm going to put more on. So everybody hates that, right? So you take a soil sample bag just like this one. They're coated so the soil stays a little more viable. You fill it up to a line that says fill to this line, and you can send it to a laboratory. If you go on Oregon State Extension's catalog, they have analytic laboratories in Oregon and all over, and there's about 30 names on there. This one's actually up in Tigard. Very important, and then they'll give you the interpretation of the soil as well. Not every lab does, but they'll give you what your soil has and give you the report, and then they usually give you this is high, this is low, what you need. So that when you're out shopping for your fertilizer and looking for those three numbers, the analysis of NPK, maybe I need something with a little more phosphorus, maybe I need something with potassium.
Can I stop you, because I love NPK. I know what it means, but I didn't 10 years ago. So can you go, so when we get those analysis back, you're probably looking at pH?
Yeah, the biggest, simplest ones to look for, pH. That's going to be, whether it's acidic or base, so you're going to know. Grasses like to be within 6 and 6.5-ish. That's about where we want to be. And if you have an issue, either sulfur to correct it down, or calcium carbonate or other limes can pull it up. And you can also get those in prill form too. Yeah, so the others are NPK is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So that's your main three. And then if you look in the analysis, there'll be several other micros and other sulfurs and other things depending on what your fertilizer has. So it's all. I'd learn too.
So that OSU site, that catalog that you can go through, those are commercial testing places, and that's a great place to start with soil tests. And we were talking about that personally in our yard. It's really nice to know what you need where, and then you can be prescriptive because you're using the yard for different things. I did have another question for you. So I think about Marion SWCD and how we partner with city entities. What is one way that we can help out some of our urban landowners? So I'm thinking about technical assistance. What are some things that we could do through our agency?
I mean, that's the main thing. We do provide technical assistance, and if we don't have the answer, we have a lot of conservation partners that we can reach out to, and the universities and other resources. So that's the best way we can help you out. I do encourage you to online webinars, or when we have workshops and that, feel free to come to those and register, and then ask us for resources. We like to spread the love and give out those. I did want to say on your soil testing, I forgot to mention that if you mentioned your lawn had 2 different soil types, you want to take a little from each one, blend them all together, and then that's kind of a sample that's most of what you have. Yeah, don't do all of one side and one of the other, because it won't really give you a good look of what you're doing. So, I mean, there's so much soil variation, depends on where you are throughout the district, throughout the valley, throughout the U.S. So you kind of want to get a representative sample of the whole area that you want to do and blend it together, so there isn't one certain type or one of a different types. So, and you can use a shovel. Don't take the first little inch, take it 6 inches or more. There's soil pulling probes that you can sometimes borrow from agronomy centers or purchase or whatever. You can look up. There is a soil sampling guide on Oregon States as well. And then we have the fertilizer guide and practical lawns up on our Facebook too, that was posted last night, so you can feel free to look back at those. It explains nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium and its importance in a lot more thorough manner. So I would get up there.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Did we cover the 4 R's?
Okay, we did our sources. We talked about slow release and fast acting. So we had our source, our rate, so that's going to be following the label. I can't give you a prescription over the phone, and that's going to be settings. They're on, like these Scott's ones, they have a setting that says, here's this lawn food, kick it to setting number 3, and they've calibrated it, and that falls on them. Timing, you want to get it sometime when it's somewhat has some rainfall or a little bit of moisture in the air, just because you avoid that 90-degree just barreling sun. That's just not good for your lawn. So first in the morning or last at night is always just safer, just to kind of do that when the sun's coming up or down, to start out. And then we have time, rate, place was on your yard, we have source. So yeah, it's kind of a mixture of all 4. Just think about what you're doing. We're not trying to say you shouldn't fertilize or this is exactly what you should put on. It's just think about it in a conservation mind, is put it where it's supposed to be, keep it out of the waterways, keep it off the lawn, and if you're using your sprinklers, you want to make sure you're keeping that water on your lawn too, so just keep it in your yard.
I think that's awesome to know. One of the things we've been doing, I know you've been doing the same thing, is neighborhood walks with the kids. And every time we go by a storm drain, we can see the little stickers that say drains to river, and there's no filtration there. So whatever hits your driveway or sidewalk goes right into the storm drains. And I know my kids are annoyed with me. I love you. You're probably not watching this anyway. But they are annoyed with me talking about that. Everything goes down the storm drain. So if you are putting on too much, it directly affects our river, and our river is a pretty awesome river. We support salmon, we support a lot of different wildlife, and so we all have a role to play there.
And that's where you want to make sure you do follow that label and just be patient, because I get, probably the one thing that when you fertilize and you don't have a lot of experience with it, you expect it's going to turn green tomorrow. And it didn't. What did I do? So I put more and more. We talked about that. You just want to give it some time, let the plants metabolize the fertilizer and get growing and get you healthy. So let that happen over a few weeks. Don't just expect it to be green overnight, because if I had a biodegradable dye that I could just put on every time and we were all good, yeah, that'd be fun. But I don't. So
you're saying patience.
Patience would be nice, because try not to over fertilize and then have that wash off, because if it's just sitting there, it's not good for your lawn. You're wasting money, and then you're going to be just throwing it away and not where it's supposed to be anyway. I mean, even in the big egg settings, they're putting on what they need for production. They're farming in a different context because they're trying to get as much yield out of those crops, so they put a lot of different things on. You don't need that for a lawn. No one goes, I got the most lawn clippings in the yard, I get a trophy. Or in the neighborhood, I have the most clippings in the neighborhood. Nobody does that. So you want to just have it where it's what you want. Is it take the traffic from your family and pets? Is it just lush and green to look at and matches in with your landscape? And how much management do you want to do?
Yeah, so let's talk about, just go to the beginning. Why do we fertilize? I think I see a lot of people, and I know for sure, our family has done this. It's just kind of a habitual thing. It's just something that we do in the spring because, that's just what we do. That's just what we do. That's what we always do. So why do we fertilize? What is the point of it? And, what are we looking to gain from that?
I I think it's always, we're gaining that aesthetic value when it comes to most lawns. You want your lawn to be healthy. You're also giving it a better chance to fight off maybe more of your noxious weeds like we talked about, because if you have a weak lawn that has several spots, weeds will find their way into those blank spots, and you'll get the dandelion and other things that come in, and then you got to fight them out. So if you have a lush green lawn, or it can be semi-green, don't say I'm pumping all the nitrogen. If you have a healthy lawn that's competitive, it's going to fight the weeds more. But I think traditionally we do it because we want a pretty lawn. We like walking on grass with our bare feet. That's just something, I mean, the grass seed industry in Oregon is based off of golfing and everything else. We like to walk on grass. It's just something humans have just an affinity for. So we want a nice, lush lawn that's pretty.
And the why I always look at too, like we have a yard with small kids, so we want to play in it. We want them barefoot running around, and our pet, we love having the pet outside. But I also think that there's kind of the plant needs too. Those roots do hold the soil in place.
Sure.
I know we're not talking riparian plants where we have really deep roots, but they do have roots that are going to slow water down, which is important too.
So are there ways that we can be having a healthy lawn that maybe we don't necessarily want to use fertilizer or avoid synthetic or whatever, but are there other alternatives to having a healthy lawn and having that aesthetic that we're looking for without doing fertilizer?
It comes into that farming in context of what you want to do for management. There's no reason you couldn't use organic fertilizers or the recycling clippings, and managing your water, because the grass is going to, especially in the summer months, is definitely going to react more to water. So, I mean, lawns can grow. We're out at a place that just grows. They don't do a lot of fertilizer management most likely in this area. So the grass will grow. It's just a matter of what you want, and it depends on the varieties that you have in your lawn. There's kind of three main ones in the area, or four: fine fescue, tall fescue, perennial, and other ryegrasses and bentgrass. They all look a little different, and they feel a little different, and they kind of can take a little different nutrition. So if you want a low maintenance lawn and you're putting one in now, then you go tell them, I don't really need to have my bare feet on a soft grass, but I want it to be really green, and that tends to be ones that are a little sharper feeling, but they're a little less maintenance. So think about that when you're starting a new lawn. If it's just your backyard and you've had it forever, I guess you want to use different types of fertilizer, or just try your best. Do that soil sample, because then you can use the minimum amount instead of just doing that kind of broad approach of throwing a bunch out and hoping for the best. Then you really know, I only need this much, and I'm going to apply it once, and then
I like that. I think that's great. I know OSU does a lot of trials, and so we mention them a lot. They're great experts, and so they do eco-lawn trial runs, and they also have dry farming trial plots. So I would check into theirs, and you just do the search on their website and check out eco-lawns if that's something that fascinates you.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do every year is a native plant sale. So how, and I know that you can't just cover your whole yard in natives, or you can. I would love to when the kids move out of the house.
I don't want to mow them over them, though.
No, I don't want to mow them. But what is it that is so attractive about utilizing, whether it's a shrub or a ground cover, a native? What's so attractive about that in lawns?
Well, a great reason to use natives besides their aesthetic value is they are native to this area. They are used to this climate and our rainfall and our cold and our heat. So over time, since they're used to being here, they require less maintenance. They do require a little maintenance to nurture to get them going. But as they grow and stay here and take root, then you really can kind of leave them alone, because they're used to being in this type of weather and are from probably the Pacific Northwest, even if it's not right here in Oregon.
You could marry then your lawn, your need for the nice soft underfeet, and some of our native plants in your landscape.
Yeah, native plants are great for landscaping, and then a lot of the grasses that I was just talking about grow really well in here. That's why you see the grass seed production in Oregon and Washington. And there's several native grasses that are a little more expensive, but if you want to go native grass, you can too.
That's awesome to know.
Yeah, they all work.
All right, so we're nearing 10:30. Is there anything you else want to say about fertilizer?
If you have any questions, reach out to us, and then if I don't have the answer, we can also reach out to those local agronomy centers, and they're there to help, and they have the products there that you can purchase as well. So a lot of times they'll give you the interpretation of a soil test or talk you through it, and then they have something that you can okay, they told me I needed this, I have no idea where to go. So I encourage reaching out. I mean, they're great partners to our district and are very involved in our soil health stuff too, so reach out to them and just think about keeping everything where it's supposed to be. Do those 4 R's we talked about. Try to think about that when you go to spread the fertilizer, just so you're not polluting and throwing it out everywhere else. So use it as it's needed.
Awesome. Cool. Jenny, anything else?
We have great partners, Master Gardeners, City of Salem, City of Kaiser. We have on our website, Marion SWCD, pictures of native plants. We have pictures of invasive plants, and all of our contact information is on marionswcd.net. So there's great resources there, and like Brandon said, we're here for you, and we're so happy that you tuned in today.
Alright guys, well hopefully this was a good introduction into fertilizer. Again, this is just a brief overview of what you guys can do in your lawns as you're spending more time at home. We are in springtime here in Oregon, so it's a great time to be focusing on outdoors and prepping for the summer. And again, the SWCD, they are excellent resources, so please reach out. Feel free to reach out to the City of Kaiser. We have our own environmental and technical division here. But again, the SWCD, they are great partners, and they will help, you know, with lawn, garden, prep, anything that you've got questions with. They will either have the answer or they know where to find it.